Get ready, cause it's about time for you to speak your mind. Super Secret Girls Club. Super Secret Girls Club. Super Secret Girls Club.
Hey, hey, hey.
What up?
Super Secret Girls Club.
What's up, you guys? I am a super secret girl.
Secretly.
What's up, everybody? It's podcast time. Well, it's the SSGC. Would you like to welcome them back?
Yes. Hi, guys. This is not how we planned to start this season, but here we are. We were originally going to discuss seasonal depression and how we are so glad that winter's almost over. I was literally going to bring mimosas and have a very happy morning.
Oh, man.
So
We can still talk about depression.
Thanks, Russia.
is seasonal depression like when your depression's well seasoned?
No.
Yeah, you just, when you're feeling down, you just sprinkle some salt and pepper to complete the experience.
I'm just now noticing that my microphone doesn't actually want to work with me, so sorry guys, give me a second
I'm
here.
just gonna finish pulling out the chat so we can see the chat.
Our man behind the camera, our guy in the chair, is out, so I'm double dutying it. If there's any problems, let me know how it looks, how it sounds. You know what we're all about.
Yeah,
around here, so I'm going to be pulling it up on my phone. Also, for anybody who's curious, one, I hope QPL stops through because this is literally happening in his neck of the woods. And also, if this isn't Kiev behind us, let me know.
Oh my God.
Because I'm like 50% sure.
Show me.
Well, hold on, we got to get through this commercial first. So, let's do introductions.
It's like Amsterdam.
Super Secret Girls Club, introduce us.
Okay, guys, this is Super Secret Girls Club. We are back. Consider this an episode 0 of season 2 because this is unplanned. With me is joining 2 super secret girls.
We're male dominating this.
We're gonna mansplain super secret girls to you guys.
Male dominate the super secret girls.
Are you manspreading over there, Mickey? Because I got my legs so far apart that my balls are touching the chair.
Oh
Really?
God!
Let me try it. Okay, there we go.
Hi guys.
What up?
Let me
right.
can I let me introduce you.
Yourself.
No. Because this is the Super Secret Girls Club and ladies first.
You guys want to scoot in a little bit this way, even up the.
Guys, I want to introduce to you, 1, our illustrious host, the person who puts a lot of this together, 2, a very beautiful mind and also a beautiful person, and 3, my wife, the truest Slav out here, Marketa Ruchichakova, aka Kediwap, aka Ruchi Kuchi, aka the Hesky Chesky out here.
That's me. Hi.
I hadn't heard 2 of those nicknames before.
So now.
Which one?
Now I know
Kediwap?
how to
last
introduce
2.
myself. Thanks, Chris.
I got you. Well, Hesky Chesky, Hesky means cute, right?
Yeah.
And Chesky is,
Hesky.
So it's like a thing that I've heard her Czech friends be like, "Ooh, Hesky Chesky," like, "Oh, you're cute and you're from Czech." And then also we've got the indomitable, the double cough man himself, the dad
Double
meme
cough.
guy off tops, young Mikolaus Mikatsky, Mickey Verdi out here.
How's it going, everybody? I'm excited to be here. Thanks for having me.
And then it would be me, your boy Trenislav out here, young Chris Johnson, New Sense 88. Follow me on Instagram. My pictures and music is cool.
What up?
I love that you call yourself the Black Slav.
You know,
And you're wearing Adidas.
Didn't even do it on purpose.
Did you do that on purpose?
I did not.
Aw, I am wearing jeans on purpose. Do you guys want to know why?
Why?
I didn't plan this, but I realized that after I put it on that like jeans is something that was a form of protest if you wore jeans during the occupation in my country. So from like 68 to 89 almost. I mean, at that point it was loosened. The rules loosened up, but at the height, like 80s, if you wore jeans, you're basically saying that you are with the West. You know what I mean?
Well,
I wonder if that's also like, like punk culture and like goth
Yes.
culture, like they have like the patches and the denim jackets. I wonder if that's like the same influence.
Because you're kind of like communicating and channeling that you have an identity on your own. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Not a part of the group. Speaking of, Mickey, are you familiar with the occupation of Czech Republic? Well, I'm sorry, Czechoslovakia at the time?
At the time.
Yeah, it was called Czechoslovakia at the time, but they were occupied.
The name change and everything.
Yeah, but are you familiar with the occupation?
No, I do not know the specifics.
Why don't you tell them about how the movie Polishki ends?
Polishki?
Update us.
Okay, so Polishki
Well,
is...
I mean, not specifically on Polishki, but update us on the occupation.
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm going to just loop the movie into it. So I want to recommend everybody, if you guys are interested in learning more about not just what's happening overseas right now, but also about their culture, I will share with you some creators, some music that you guys can listen to kind of like get acquainted with who those people are. But also, I do want to talk about Polishki because it's a great movie. It was made in Czech Republic, and it's basically about the period leading to the year 68, which is when Russian forces invaded my country and took over the government, which is basically the thing that's happening in Ukraine right now.
Topical.
In this movie, we're following a group of teenagers and their parents, so it's multi-generational kind of slice of life movie. From like, I think it's an overspan of 2 years, and kind of like what happens in their lives. At the time when they're living their lives prior to the occupation, we are already under communism, because we have elected the Communist Party to, lead us. And at first it was good. Everything was fine. Some of the leaders were more gung-ho about communism than others, We had a period called the Prague Spring, which was a big kind of... Everything was much more accessible, like information flowing from all sides, like clothing, all kinds of resources flowing. And some people did not like that, and they just kind of called Russia and was like, hey, we're too loose. Come put us in order, and they did. I
put the spelling of Polishki there. If you're looking for it in English, it's also called Cozy Dens. COZYDENS.
Cozy Dens?
Cozy Dens. You know what a den is, right? Yeah. We used to have a den. People don't have dens anymore.
Yeah.
Fun fact.
It's not a,
not a room you need.
Yeah.
Just like people don't have foyers anymore. Unless you're fancy, I guess.
So, yeah.
Yeah, man.
You want to say something?
Oh, no, I mean, it's, we're going to be talking about some heavy things today, so.
Yeah.
Well, can I talk more about the movie to kind of lead into it?
Yeah.
Because I know Mickey likes movies.
Yeah.
Anyway, so check it out. Here's the thing about this movie. All right. As in a good old American watching it, it's fun. There's this whole kind of stipulation with like foreign films where they're kind of older and slower. I think the thing that I like about Polishki is that, and I'm still haven't watched it with my family yet, but I want to, is that you get a sense for Czech humor, which is, kind of glib and kind of dark. Like a lot of their jokes are it's how British humor is kind of that blunt humor. Yeah. It's that mixed in with like some hardcore darkness. Like there's like 2 suicide jokes in this movie. Like this kid puts his head in an oven and he's trying to kill himself. And the family's like, oh my God, he's dead. The dad's like, it's a fucking electric oven, idiot. So like, shit like that. Gotcha. Or like someone tries to hang themselves in the gazebo and the whole gazebo breaks. Then they're just like, fuck, I can't do anything right. It's
the neighbor is just upset because the gazebo's broken now. He's not upset because somebody's trying to take their lives.
Yeah. So you said there's like multi-generational perspective, so it's like, how
yes.
like where the young people think about this, where the older people. Oh,
yeah,
that's cool.
And it's obviously because it's leading up to the
very topical
to the invasion of Czech. It's so some of the people are like more pro-West, some are more pro-East, and it's a very interesting way that like people kind of go about it. There's a lot of cool imagery. The movie ends. I'm getting cold chills thinking about it. The movie ends with this really cool shot of like this girl doing something that's really symbolic. And there's also a character in there who yells until he fucking dies. Just like you see him yelling and you're like, there's no way you end this movie without having a heart attack.
Yeah.
Like the second you see this dude, he's just like, it's funny at first and he just keeps going. And you're like, bro. How are you maintaining that energy? Dial it back.
Must have lost his voice for like a few weeks.
But
this is why art is important, because like art is honestly where you're going to get all viewpoints represented. If you're listening to the media alone, that's a narrative, fam. That's a stage play right there. It doesn't matter which side you're listening to or what channel you're on, you're never getting the full truth. They're showing you what they want to show you. So I think that's, movies like that are important. And music, I mean, it's usually the artists. Like if you think about even the conflicts that have happened here, and all the music and all the art that came out of it, it's timeless, and we always go back to it. And it's unfortunate, man. History really just keeps repeating itself, and it's very scary what's happening right now.
I do also want to add, in this movie, one of the families that we're following have relatives in Russia. They come to visit, and we hear them being mentioned multiple times before this happens, before the end and the occupation. So like that also kind of like indirectly tells you that we are interconnected. Like we have national relationships and families. The same, just like in Ukraine, like Russian people and Ukrainian, they form families together. It's very jarring that this war is happening right now because of that specifically, that alone.
Yeah.
Because of how entrenched these cultures are. They're not that different. The differences between the cultures are so small.
And
it's
to
crazy.
that same note, there's a region in Czech that during World War II was like heavily Germaned. It was like a mix of German and Czech people.
Sudeten.
Yeah. I guess I'm going to try to wing this and remember what happens. But after the war, like, aren't all those people killed or like moved out of their land, even though they would have been Czech people who just have German culture and heritage?
So this is one of the most controversial parts about Czech history. And a lot of Czech people are unwilling to acknowledge that what we did was wrong. So basically, after the war ended and, all the atrocities that the Germans have caused, they basically laid claim on our country because around the border, a lot of German people lived. It was called the Sudetenland. And you guys, if you are history buffs, you're already ringing all the alarms because you know what happened. But basically, those lands after the war were reclaimed by Czech people again. And there was obviously a lot of bad blood and a lot of
violence,
revenge seeking that led to a lot of death and a lot of innocent lives lost on German side. And yes, there were innocent German people who absolutely didn't want anything to do with this fucking war, just like there are innocent people on the Russian side. I mean, we saw the protests. I don't know if you guys saw, but yesterday there were protests in like Kremlin, in Vladivostok, like in all kinds of St. Petersburg. All major cities in Russia were protesting, and
they're shutting them down.
Protesting in Russia is life-threatening situation that you're putting yourself into.
Like, that's a bold.
Absolutely. And there were massive amounts of people considering the dangers and the risks that come with it. So clearly this war is unpopular.
Yeah, you had the news on right before we started this. Like they're also just like shutting them down as fast as they can. That's what really sucks about this is like nobody that's just living a regular life wants this to be happening.
No.
You know?
Right.
And now all these sanctions that we're putting on Russia, like ultimately that's just going to hurt the people that live there that don't want this to be happening.
I think the plan is to hurt the people that are living there until they're pissed off enough at the government that they bitch about it and just make it unfeasible. But it's only gonna radicalize people, and it's a radical thought even still to be like, we're taking back Ukraine.
The only way, in my opinion, to sanction properly is to sanction.
Turn your mic.
Sorry.
I just want people to hear you. Oh no, the mic's. She is loose.
Too loose.
Sorry guys, this is real live shit here.
Where's the dot? I think you're taking it off.
Loosening it.
Loose like Chris.
Oh no.
Professionalism.
Yeah.
Shut up, Pat. Pat's always. What do you guys think about China? Should have been asking what we think about Russia this whole time, Pat. I get it. Hold on, just making sure.
I think it's on the other side.
There you
and
go.
it's gone.
Beautiful.
Well, I lost my condom.
It's okay. You just have to speak into the dot.
Unsafe podcasting.
The dot.
Hello from Ukraine, Normies. Oh, you're about to get a bunch of questions asked from you. Don't tell us.
Aw, Charlua, hi.
I'm glad
we
you
are
still
literally
have,
talking about you.
Internet.
Oh yeah,
Aren't they in danger of like losing all their communication and shit?
Yeah, I mean that's gonna be a thing a war is gonna want to do.
This is fucked.
Charlua, tell us if you're safe. Where are you right now?
No, don't tell us where you're at.
No, don't tell us where. Okay, fine. I mean, does that matter?
In Ukraine? I don't fucking know. I don't know.
KGB is
Chernobyl
listening to
might
our
be-
podcast after Chernuha.
Someone could be listening. Chernobyl could be doing some dissidence, could be doing some rebellion, could be doing some resistance.
Okay.
If that's the case,
Don't tell us.
Don't tell us.
What were you saying about
Sanctions.
Sanctions. Okay, my opinion. Sanctioning like economy broadly in Russia does nothing but hurts the people. Like you can't be doing that because there's already lack of resources. Russia is not a very, like the GDP of Russia is not very high. It's not a good life in Russia. I mean, it's probably like an average for most
But
people.
it's really big too.
But it's a giant country, so obviously resources are probably mismanaged as fuck. Point is, putting up sanctions against like necessities like gas or something like that, which is what Russia is doing to Europe, it's just bad for the people. What I think should be happening is, and I think partly it is already happening, sanctions on like banking systems, especially the banks that are used by the very, very rich oligarchs.
Because they do got
That are
billionaires.
not, mind you, even mostly living in Russia. Most of those like rich, powerful oligarchs living overseas, like Italy, somewhere by the beach. And I think that all those assets that they have should be seized and frozen.
Well, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Because I mean, unless those people that are in power and can actually like have a direct line to Putin and can talk to him and like be pissed at him, unless that part of Russian citizens are hurting, and they will not hurt if you just do broad sanctions, then nothing's gonna happen.
I'm gonna put my tinfoil hat on here, and I think the reason you're right. That's probably what should happen, but I don't think that will happen because we probably have our feelers in that money some way somehow. You know what I mean? Like I mean, the powers that be, whether you're talking about like whatever country, like the powers that be, they have their own fucking WhatsApp chat group. You know what I mean? Like they know what's really going on. So the sanctions that
They talk on WhatsApp.
the sanctions that need to happen won't happen because we ourselves probably
less than that too.
connected some way somehow.
Billionaires
to all that shit.
are insulated. So even like if you're a billionaire, somebody just said losing a couple of million is not a big deal for a billionaire. Like billionaires are
Right.
going to be the kind, their money's going to be so insulated
But-
and so tied to what's happening in the entire world that like they'll be like, whatever, I got futures in fucking bombs that they're going to drop anywhere. Like it's fine.
I don't think this is just about the money though, because it's also about like loss, experiencing loss, even though it's not like affecting you financially, it's about like the ego. You know what I mean? Like you are somebody's taking things from you and you have so many things because you're fucking hoarding money. Like it's gonna hurt you on like an emotional level. You know what I mean?
Right.
Yeah.
But that's what I'm saying. They won't do that because doing that will probably hurt us in some way. Like their money's probably tied up with us somehow, some way, and it's like, we can't.
Oh, yeah, I
we can't
mean-
test this person because if we hurt him, we hurt ourselves, type thing. You know. What I mean?
There is definitely a reason why a lot of media have been kind of pro-Russia even after what happened.
Yeah.
I mean, like, there's no other reason why they would be doing that unless they're taking direct profit from it.
I am so sorry.
Yeah.
We need to take 10 seconds.
Why?
I have to fix
What
your
is
microphone.
wrong?
So I fucked
Can
it up.
people hear me?
They can, but I fucked it up so much.
It's fine. I'll deal with it.
No, you are the. All right, there we go. We fixed it. It was a systemic issue, and I fixed it. Listen,
Sorry, guys.
I wanted to say too. I think that it's kind of ridiculous too that, and maybe it's not. For me, it seems ridiculous. I'm willing to admit that I don't know. Maybe there is some truth in this, but in a really terrible roundabout way. But people are like, if Donald Trump was in office, this would never happen. And it's like, I think it's kind of an
Yeah.
American-centric view to think that who we have in office super really dictates what's going to happen around the world. Because once again,
So
like
not the
they
case.
took Crimea, but Donald Trump is cool with Putin. Biden did have his son was some fucking engineer or running some power plant or some shit in Ukraine. So I don't fucking know, but I don't also see it that way. I don't know. It seems like a really, like, that seems super tinfoil hatty to me. And if that is the case, and it does turn out that that's some shit, or this is Russia's long ploy to get Donald Trump reelected, that feels weird. Like that doesn't.
Yeah. So there was.
But who knows? I'm just saying that for me, it doesn't seem feasible, and it seems like a really American-centric view of the world to think that who we have in office really dictates
Yeah.
what another. Because, like, I know that we think that we have a cap on Russia. Putin does not give a fuck, has continued to not give a fuck. My man was a KGB agent who was essentially going to be president for life over there. I can't really think a man like that gives too huge of a shit about like what's really happening.
Yeah, yep.
I know he's useful for him, but I don't know that that means that Putin wouldn't try to take more territory.
I think this is a struggle for like who's the next superpower, man. Like that again, you say it's a very American centric view to be like, no, we're number one. I'm like, I don't know,
But that's it though.
It's not necessarily the case anymore.
When it comes to military, straight up, like we are the number one and number two largest air forces. Our air force is huge, and then our fucking Navy is so huge that it can be considered an air force. I really think that we have spent so much incredible, stupid fucking amounts of money into our military that I am pretty solid on we're going to be able to win a war. But it's terrible. It's unfeasible. And I was listening to Bo of the Fifth Column. I was telling Marquetta about this. And so let's say the U.S. gets involved militarily and we push Russia out of Ukraine with force, right? Then we've pushed Russia into Russia. What do we do then? Because we're not going to try to depose Putin. We're not going to try to kill Putin so that there can be a new leader in Russia, because the second you cross into Russian land with one nuclear superpower and another nuclear superpower, then it's nuclear war. So like that can't happen. And pushing him out of Ukraine means that he'll just try to do it later. So there's like, as much as like we do have all the guns and weapons to win a war, it's checkmate all around the board. So
it's very,
those kind of fights don't matter anymore, it feels like.
It's very scary. Those three words are very scary to me now. Like when you said that can't happen, and I've been saying that to myself since like Trump was running for president, and he's like, he's running for president. Okay, okay, he's gaining some traction, but I mean, come on, it's not really gonna. It's like everything that we've been thinking isn't gonna happen has happened. So like
I agree with you.
You know what I mean? Like even now people are, I mean, all this leading up to Ukraine, people are like, yeah, but they're not really gonna do it.
You ain't wrong.
And if they do, we're not gonna let them. Like
it just feels like nuclear war literally doesn't benefit anybody.
Well, the sad and unfortunate thing is that we heard Putin yesterday say that he is ready to use unimaginable force.
I mean, people threaten that shit, though. I think and the thing is that I do think I really think, and I apologize to Ukraine, but I think the world is going to let Ukraine stand on its own. I think Ukraine's going to lose because Russia's way bigger. And I think that Ukraine will be like Czech was and just have lost its sovereignty for the foreseeable future. Hopefully they're able to get it back.
No.
But I mean, I think that that's the most playable out, instead of the world being like, when we did World War II, no one knew what could happen. And now it's like, we all know what could happen. So the whole world is reluctant to go to nuclear war, and no one's going to win from that. No one. So I feel like the world would just let Ukraine fall before it would risk itself.
This might not come down to like winning or losing. It's like Marquetta said, it might just come down to ego and the people that control the button.
It's literally what this war started with, because nobody wants this war. Nobody wants this war. I repeat it one more time. Nobody wants this war. Nobody in Russia and nobody in Ukraine wants this fucking war. Like,
nobody here wants this, I don't think.
There are so many Russian Ukrainian families. Like, my mother's Russian, my dad is Ukrainian. Like, you hear that all the time. There's like, those people are bilingual. I'm not saying that there are no problems internally in Ukraine. You know, people were talking about some elements of Nazism.
A lot of corruption, too.
And corruption. And yes.
We all got a lot of fucking corruption.
Every country has those kinds of people that take it too far, and they are ultra-militaristic, and they are very patriotic. And those people do not represent Ukraine. The president right now is Jewish, as far as I know. So like, you can't be saying that the Ukraine is anti-Semitic or things like that, which is the narrative that Putin is trying to push. Like, I think that one of the most dangerous things happening right now is all the the fake news and the propaganda that's like floating around, where a lot of news outlets they have tremendous responsibility to get things right, because once they do not, they will be discredited forever. And like I saw yesterday, because I had to take the day off, I can focus on anything, and I was just watching, and like there would just be like random videos popping out from like 2014 or from like just a military show, and they would portray it as like, this is happening right now. But it's like, do not share this unless you know, and as news outlets you have the responsibility to check that. It's not our responsibility, it is too. I mean, obviously now that we know
but it
that you guys are incompetent, we have to check ourselves.
Yeah.
But please do that for us. Like,
well, I mean, it's a bit, that's the thing. It's like whether you're watching CNN or Fox, like.
Don't. So I did want to actually talk about this, because I wanted to ask you guys, what are your like favorite to-go sources for this type of information?
Well, before we jump to that, can I mention one
What?
thing? So I did want to mention too, with what you guys were saying about people's egos, that it takes more. I know that one person has their hand on the switch, but it takes a group of people to launch nuclear bombs. I wanted to give a shout out to the motherfucking homie, Stanislav Petrov, who is a Russian man who during the Cold War, he was on a nuclear powered submarine, and they were getting the
The codes from Cuba.
to go to shoot the missiles, because it looked like Americans had shot our missiles, but we didn't. There was just a bug in the fucking system. And instead of launching nuclear bombs, it came down to one entire human fucking person to keep the whole entire world from going to nuclear war, who wasn't a president, all right, who wasn't a very quote unquote powerful person the way we think. And he didn't. He held off. He used judgment. He did the one thing that we think people can't do when they're up against the wall. But I think, hope,
is the next guy.
I think that he is acting in a
level-headed.
rational human way, and I hope and pray that when it comes down to it, humans acting in that's what I hope. That's what I hope. I hope that there's enough checks and balances on human life and human reasonability. Because, I mean, fuck. If that dude would have been like, they're doing it, so we're doing it,
That's it.
be fucked.
We
That's
wouldn't
it.
even be here.
That's hope. That's hope. That's what I have.
Yeah.
I'm a fucking shitball optimist with hope. Anyway, news sources.
Yeah.
Did you want to say something
Oh,
about that?
no. We can move on.
Okay.
Shout out to Stanislav, bro.
Yeah, Stanislav is the MVP. We are here because of him today.
Straight up. That's why I'm like, is the next guy gonna be level-headed? Because I'm sure a lot of the soldiers that are having to invade, I'm sure a lot of people in that military are like, yeah, fuck yeah, let's do this. But I'm sure there's a lot of people that are also like, I have to do this. I don't have a choice.
Well,
like
this is unconfirmed information. I don't know if this is true or not, but there were rumors that like one of the battalions, they like gave themselves up because they like had no idea that they were sent to, I guess like they still thought that they were just doing like a military drill. And when they were sent to combat, they were like, no, like we literally live here. Like those were like from the separatist groups. Like they didn't want to, and I don't know, again, this sounds like a very naive, like I am so cynical that I have a hard time believing this happened. Also, the source wasn't very trustworthy. So I don't know if anybody can enlighten us more on this situation. Please let us know in the chat. But I also wanted to mention that there was an island, Zmeya Island, the island of snakes.
The snakes.
With only 13 people on the Black Sea, 13 military personnel, because it was
And
like
this
a
was,
military outpost.
Ukraine base.
Russian warship came by the island and were threatening to shoot at them, and the 13 Ukrainian soldiers say, go fuck yourself, and then they died. So RIP to the Zmeya squad. You guys are great.
Also, the Zmeya was
It's very sad.
one of the ships from Expanse.
Yes.
Look at that.
See, that's what going back to what you said, Chris, is like we're only gonna be level-headed when we know, like, oh, if I press this button, the planet's fucked. But all these like, like the island thing, all the bombs they're dropping in Ukraine right now, like people are comfortable pressing those buttons because it's like, oh, okay, a building full of people are gonna die, but it's not the world yet. So it's just like, it's
fucked.
It is fucked, but I mean that's the kind of people shit that I expect.
I'm just
I mean,
scared.
people do shit like
I'm scared.
We're from where people do crime often. The murder rate's crazy high here, so I understand what you mean. I'm just saying that when it comes to bigger than that, I got hope in humanity. So
Yeah.
we're talking about news places where we get our informations.
So I did want to just pass on some recommendations where I get my news, and you guys can join in and suggest yours. Basically, I just like, obviously, Reuters and Associated Press news is the driest matter of fact news that you can get. There's not a lot of context. It's basically just this happened. Then you have to from then you have to do your own research. I do listen to Democracy Now! Almost every day. It's a great hour news source where you can just get all of your news, or they have highlights, which are only 10 minutes. So if you're pressed for time, that's a good way to get your fill. And I also wanted to highlight that there are tools that you can use to fact check your information, even if you follow some other sources that you don't know if they're trustworthy or not. Such as you can go to factcheck.org, you can go to snopes.com. There are so many other tools that you can use to verify the information you're getting.
I like to, my friend says I have a fetish for this, and I don't think he's wrong. OAN, Newsmax, I really like to see what the far right, I'm dead serious.
No, me too.
I like to see what the far right's talking about. For instance, I'm on OAN right now, and, oh my bad, I'm sorry, haven't posted.
I do follow some of those pundits on Twitter. And every time they tweet, I'm just like, shut the fuck up. I got a Rumble actually to follow these places. And they're all on some bullshit.
What's Rumble?
Rumble is like a alt-right YouTube. So it's where everybody kind of abandoned YouTube to come talk about this. And it's cool to see what the other side's thinking. I really go there mostly for the comments because these people are commenting unabashedly. They're saying all the things that we think about them. The far right is racist. This is no news for anybody else. But I'll also kind of pop into Fox News. But my regular sources of news are going to be we watch DeFranco once a day. I listen to, what's it called? NPR, the one that I listen to every morning. I listen to NPR probably every time I'm in the car. I usually am listening to NPR over music. And I'll just kind of try to read through. When Marquette is watching Democracy Now!, I'll check in on it. But I should the Trump social media is up and running. Please tell me about it because, yes, I'd like to follow it. I think he talks about Rumble. But what was the other one? Rumble, Parler. Is it Parler? Parler? Does it still exist? I don't know how to use Parler. I've tried, and Parler was so confusing that I just kind of bounced. But I think it's, especially in our country where we're so divisive right now, you need to know what they're talking about. You need to understand their talking points and their points of view so that you can be up on just a tertiary knowledge of it. Don't go into their rabbit holes because you literally don't have time to dismantle the arguments with them because it's going to be impossible. But just to know where their mind's at to get a feel for our country is what I do. And Truth Social is the new app. It's just Twitter. Well, God damn. I mean, hopefully they got that shit in the App Store. The alternate truth. So that's where I go. Mickey, where do you go to get your shit?
To be honest, man, before all this Ukraine stuff started happening, honestly, after Trump left office and maybe a month or two ago, I was kind of just so exhausted with everything that I kind of just took a break. So I haven't actually, I've been kind of blissfully unaware of a lot of things, which is not good, but man, this last few years have just been so taxing that I couldn't.
You are absolutely right.
Couldn't do it anymore, But but when I do go back to the news, I do the same thing as you, Chris. I will listen to both sides. If I'm getting my news from a mainstream source like CNN or Fox News, regardless whether I'm watching a left or a right channel, I'm gonna take that shit with a grain of salt because, as you should, because these journalists on TV, they're just celebrities now. They're just performers. Yeah. I don't think that mainstream journalism is real journalism anymore. So I like to also just scour YouTube for more of the guerrilla channels.
Oh yeah, I wanted to say too that one, to Big Appa, check out the last thing that Hassan posted a couple of posts ago. I think it's maybe 2 posts ago where he's talking about that. He's literally mentioning the thing you're mentioning, which is interesting. But 2, back during Ukraine Crimea being annexed by Russia. I remember watching that, and I didn't have a proper job at the time, and I really wanted to be a video journalist. And I've been like, damn, like they're over there in the shit. They're making these videos. They're having to eat SD cards when they get caught, and it was all fucked up and crazy. But it felt like they were able to tell a story and make a difference, and I really liked that idea, and I started following a bunch of those journalists, and that's how I got turned on to like Tim Pool,
Right.
who ended up becoming like this fucking absolute nut job. Like I watched this man go from being like, I'm a journalist and reporter to like absolutely shilling for the like conspiracy theory right and shit to make his money.
It's crazy how just some news sources on television are just, it's just blatantly just not true anymore. It's just like they're just like 24/7 of just bullshit, and it but you need to listen to that if you're like, whether you agree with anything, you need to be aware of the
bullshit the other people,
because like all throughout college, the radio station, the most popular radio station here used to be like 93.1, and then they switched to 100.9 because I don't know who the channel is, I guess. But anyways, all right. Basically, 93.1 became the conservative radio station with like Rush Limbaugh and all that shit. You know what I mean? And
fuck that guy.
And I didn't stop listening to it. I was just like, oh, this is interesting. So like, I spent a number of years every single morning I would listen to conservative radio on my way to school, just being mad.
Conservative radio's wild.
It is wild.
It's wild.
They love their facts and statistics, but they won't have a debate on why are those statistics the way they are.
Right.
They just like to be like, no, well, if you look at the statistics.
One of my favorite ones is that they'll be like, well, 13% of the population commits 50% of the crime, talking about black people. And I'm like, so do you think that we have a gene that just makes us commit more crime? Or if the cops were around you more often, would they find more crime?
Right, exactly. And
we're not talking about that. We're just talking about facts. Facts don't care about your feelings.
And I hate that. I mean, even now, I have to kind of catch myself because I'm speaking very contentiously, and it sucks, man. Like I'm starting to like literally lose friends over this shit because like we can't have just a conversation anymore. It's very contentious.
I think it's
very, very contentious, and it's hard to have like a productive debate. It just devolves into us versus them very, very quickly, and it's very sad. It's very, very sad.
I want to add one small thing on that and then let Marquette get back to her points.
Yeah.
But I really think, and I think I said this maybe a couple podcasts ago, but it's going to be my whole notion for the whole entire year, is that I really think it came with climate change. And once one side was able to deny climate change, even though it was an existential threat that the majority of scientists said were real, once we were able to do that, that's when the division really started getting hardcore. Like the whole Obama birther thing was like some conspiracy theory, regular racism bullshit. But once like my man was like, climate change is real. And then people had to be like, I don't like him. It's not real. And we need to refute this. Like we start to get this like big rift where no one could agree on anything. And it's just gotten wider and wider and wider and wider. And I think it's because we have a huge education problem in the country.
I remember the whole I'm sorry to cut you off, but the whole mask thing. I remember the exact moment when that became a political thing is when Trump was just supposed to read the script, be like, wear your masks. I'm not going to be wearing one, but
you can if you want to.
That was the moment. Yeah. Those few words. I'm not going to be wearing one. Bam, done. Now it's a political thing, and I hold him solely responsible for the mask debate.
There was also a point at the beginning of the pandemic where Fauci himself was recommending that people don't wear masks because they needed the masks to stay in hospitals. They needed essential workers to have access to those. Very, very, again, mismanaged. The last mask, like the system is basically built on scarcity. And so now that when there suddenly was an influx in demand, they couldn't meet that demand. So Fauci literally went on TV to tell people that they don't need to wear masks, even though everybody in Europe at that point was wearing fucking masks.
But it's because
and now people are going back to that and be like, whoa, he's a flip-flopper.
Yeah, but it's not, that's what I'm saying. Like, I fucking hate Trump, but he's not the only person responsible for this bullshit.
Everything is like fact-based now, but nothing is context-based anymore. Like facts need context too, you know what I mean? Yeah. And it's just like, I don't know, man. I get really just worked up when I'm just angry about the world and how it is and how us just trying to live our lives, and you just trying to live your lives. We're just, what can we do? We're just getting fucked. I mean, we go.
I mean, we're also are guilty of electing bad people in office. I mean, that is our responsibility. The fact that we're given bad options is partially also on us, because we just need to be louder.
Protest vote.
Yeah.
One day for a big one. But that takes everybody working together, and it takes all sides knowing that the system's fucked, and the only way to get past that is to work together. But
the fact that the Democratic Party offered us Biden as salvation is pathetic.
Yeah.
It's offensive. I literally hated voting for Biden, but I had to. And I feel like a lot of people felt the same way.
Same, yeah. It was the same thing during Hillary and Trump, It's like, I didn't necessarily want to vote Hillary.
I didn't vote Hillary because I literally was like, whatever. And then look at where we're in now. I had people mad at me. I literally lost Democratic friends because they're like, what the fuck? You threw your vote away? And I was like, first off, I live in Indiana, a pretty consistent red state. So most of my votes are going to get thrown away. Were you about to read something, Ketty?
Yeah, I was gonna go back a little bit to our original topic. We had a comment from Joshton83. This war, I'm talking again about the war in Russia, in Ukraine with Russia right now. Mm-hmm. This war isn't about people getting rich. This is horrible financially for the Russian people and Putin's circle with all the economic sanctions. It's about writing history in Putin's view. Putin said that he views the fall of the Russian Empire and the Soviet Union as the worst event in history and wants to take back the lands he believes are owned by Russia.
Shout out to John Harris. I watched a video about that recently on his channel.
Yes, this is accurate. And I did want to talk about the history because, I mean, I've lived part of it. My parents lived a great part of it. My grandmother as well. So I am personally invested in this, and I did want to talk about what do you guys, are you familiar with the history actually?
The history of
the rise and fall of the Russian Empire.
Will you tell us about that?
But I probably had the watered down American education behind it.
Tell us about that and the relations to your family, because I don't think your family's lineage is actually tied to the story and what's happening now, and I don't know if people know that. I think you should tell them.
Sure. I will get to it, but I will start broadly by saying basically the Kiev. The reason why there is fighting in Kiev right now specifically, which is not part of, if you look at the map of Ukraine, the contentious territories are on the very, very far east and down south in Crimea. Which already has been taken, and we just kind of became okay with that for some reason. But Kiev is in the middle, north in the middle of Ukraine, and it's being attacked right now because Kiev is considered to be the birthplace of the Rus nation.
Vikings.
The Kievan Rus, if you remember Vikings, that sick guy with what's his name? Oleg. Fictional character, but good representation. That's basically the cradle of the Russian nation, and that is why it's so important to Putin to retake that part, and that is the capital city of Ukraine. This is why this is such a big deal. It's much bigger of a deal than 6 years ago when he took Crimea.
Because if you take the capital of a country, either the country has to move its capital and redraw its borders, or that country is taken.
Yes. Yeah. So basically, Russia has history with. What the fuck is this?
It's the trash compactor. You're pointing up, but it's down.
It's down.
It's like in the basement.
We're gonna be out of this building soon. Sorry about this.
So Russia always has a rule of monarchs and oligarchs. That's just been throughout. Just the rich versus the poor has kind of been the motive for hundreds of years.
Could you tell us what an oligarch is? I'm so sorry.
It's a person with a lot of money that demands power.
An oligarchy is rule by the rich.
Yes.
Sounds familiar.
Anyway, so this obviously led this unequal situation has led to Lenin and the development of the communist ideology. Lenin took over in I think 1917, and after him was Stalin and we all know probably what happened there. This great famine.
A lot of death.
At that point, Russia was a giant nation, and they just kept on expanding. I think at that point, even Mongolia and like certain middle Asian countries like Kazakhstan and those countries were part of the Eastern Bloc. And as it was spilling downward towards like China and those countries, it was also spilling westward towards my country. So Ukraine was part of it at that point already. Then we had Belarus, and then Poland, Czech, Slovakia, Hungary, all those countries. That was a giant empire. And because of the far historical significance of Kiev, as well as the more recent history and the losses that they experienced in Putin's lifetime, he still feels right to those lands, which does include my country. About my personal history, my grandmother actually was Ukrainian. She was born in Lvov, which is close. Very close to Hungary. It's on the it's on the west of Ukraine, but it's actually very close to Chernobyl. I think Chernobyl actually was also taken by Russia yesterday. I don't know why. That is concerning.
Maybe they're gonna clean it up. Surprisingly.
Yeah, sure. Whatever.
Get that elephant's foot.
And my grandma. The only reason I'm Czech and not Ukrainian is because my grandma was forcibly taken by the Germans for the work camp. And then she met my Czech grandfather there, and then they got married and moved to Czech. So that is why I'm Czech. But
can I also bring up one other interesting fact?
What?
Aren't both of your grandparents have the same name? Both sets of grandparents, or is it both of your grandpas have the same name?
No. What? Joseph?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. You got two Grandpa Josephs.
Yeah. It was a very popular name.
Krzysztof.
And so the war ended, and then there was a period of brief prosperity. Then we decided that communism was the way, which wasn't bad at first, like I said. And then my parents have lived through the invasion and all that. And, the funny part is that a lot of, like, Eastern Bloc, older generation is experiencing this now, like, thinking back on it in a nostalgic way. So there are actually a lot of people, including my own parents, that have very selective memory. And they like to remember the good things. And it did, so, like, a lot of the social systems and the safety nets we have right now are the remnants of our social communist past. Mm-hmm. And it's good for the people, but everything in moderation. You know what I mean?
Like
my parents specifically like to not remember the repressions and the freedoms that were taken, the lack of resources, the fact that they had to spend hours waiting in lines just to get bread. They don't like to remember that.
But we had bread.
It's weird. It's weird.
I mean, I think that selective memory thing, and plus, too, you were telling me about some other things that we won't super go into culturally about how, like, communism worked, where if you were different or separate, like, you really couldn't be a part of things. Yeah. Like, you were telling me that you knew somebody who probably needed, like, a special system of education and didn't get it because, like, they couldn't, and, like, it wouldn't have been allowed. Or, like,
I mean, so having a disability or being gay or choosing to wear jeans even is just unforgivable, and you just can't participate in society if you make these choices or if you are born a certain way.
Yeah.
So not good way to govern people.
Fun fact, I would also say that while mild political stuff, while like that kind of extreme form of communism is shitty, when you think about communism as being the party for the workers and that the majority of people are workers, that in that way it starts to make sense. But then when you see people implement it and take it too far and do things that are really shitty, it's bad. Same with socialism. Too much socialism is bad. Which would lead to the too much capitalism is also bad. What if I said balance was key?
But it's also about absolute power corrupting absolutely.
Yeah, and don't jump down my throat on that. Just hear it, listen to it, go read some. I don't know. I'm not a fucking communist.
I mean, yeah, I mean, there has to be something, man, because, like, the divide between rich and even middle class is, like, we're not even rich versus poor. Like, literally rich versus, like, it's either you're extremely rich or you are living, like, essentially paycheck to paycheck. Like, it's the notion of, like, a comfortable life is straying further and further away.
Yeah,
you know
and
what
I mean,
like,
America became a strong powerhouse for capitalism because if you had a business where you were selling a product and your workers, you didn't have to pay them, and you did that for generations, you would be filthy rich. Slave labor built this country, and because we didn't have to pay for it, we're able to get filthy fucking rich. Mm-hmm. That's not even a controversial opinion. That's just economics 101.
Yeah.
So turns out capitalism could be bad too and used to do bad things. And I think people don't really tie capitalism into slavery when they talk about it, but it's there.
Yeah. I think personally, I'm a big fan of regulations because I don't think that people have enough goodwill, especially when it affects their pockets, to make the change themselves. I think if there is an environmental threat in certain industry, it needs to be fucking managed by the government. Like it not managed by the government, but there certain rules have to be fucking followed, and if they're not, there has to be consequence that is felt by this industry.
You are pro regulation.
Yes.
Yeah, for sure.
Absolutely.
For sure. Yeah, man. I saw this doc. I mean, the first time my eyes were open to, like, you know, regulation and deregulation, I was pretty young. I mean, in my teens. Maybe.
Yeah.
It was in 2008, 2009. I don't know how old I was then.
We'd have both been graduating. It'd been your second year of college.
Okay, so still pretty young, right? So and you know, just getting into my adult years, kind of. So now I'm like, oh, maybe I should start watching the news and stuff. You know, like, oh, I got bills and responsibilities now. Maybe I should know what's going on around me. So I watched this documentary called Inside Man or Inside Job.
Yeah,
and it was
good movie too.
It was all about the 2008 collapse. It was all about, like, what led to that, and it was deregulation.
And, like, The Big Short.
Yeah.
You want to hear my one regulation story that's annoying?
Yeah.
Me and Marquette were on this train ride going to Colorado, and it snowed. And so the train was taking much longer to get to Colorado than it was supposed to.
Yeah.
And so train staff has to change, I think, like every 12 hours. 16 hours
is the max they can
And
work.
so so we're sitting in the snowstorm in the middle of fucking like Nebraska. We're bored on this train, and we've been on it for, it's supposed to be an 18-hour trip.
That would have been really cool.
But it was actually really
It was
cool.
cool,
We got
yeah.
free dinner and everything. But the train ride was supposed to take 18 hours. It took 36. And then on the, like, 16th hour, the train conductor was like, well, guys, we have to stop and wait for our replacement crew to ride another train here to meet us because of these regulations saying that we, a very well-done staff, can't drive for more than 16 hours. And I was like, in this sense, I'm kind of annoyed. But also, how many trains have gone off the tracks because one of you sleepy motherfuckers didn't know what you're doing?
Isn't there like a team of people, like, can't they just, like, hey, you take a nap now? And, like,
so that's what I was
That's
thinking,
what
is
I
that it
was
would be nice if they had, like, a conductor or a driver who did a sleep rotation. But for whatever reason, that wasn't the case.
And are trains not as complex as airplanes, where it's like a lot of it is like auto, you know?
No, I don't know. I don't know. Also, airplanes, like, I mean, they do the same for.
I'm sure it's not old school, like shoveling.
They do the same for,
coal
like,
into you know?
Airplane pilots. They don't need to be up that long. You know, they probably have their sleep regulation too. But it's like, in that case, as a passenger, I'm like, yes, I'm annoyed. But also, I mean, I would rather get there later than for every 1 in 100 trains to crash because of some sleepy motherfucker. So whatever.
Oh man.
Well, I think this specifically is has stemmed from unionization of government workers.
Yeah, which people don't like unions because of propaganda. Unions literally benefit
Again,
you.
like, yeah, and unions are something that was that's a socialist / communist concept, and it's a good idea.
8-hour work week.
Every theory of economy has some good and some bad ideas,
Right.
and, like, mixing them together is probably the best thing we can do.
And every single one of those can also be exploited as well.
Obviously,
Season 2
obviously.
of The Wire.
Yes, that's why I fuck you, because you're like, hey, unions are a good thing, and then you also see them exploit that, and you're like, well, maybe if we could be involved in that better, it wouldn't be able to get exploited, which is Cool shit.
So I did want to showcase, unfortunately, we don't have like excerpts or anything because we didn't have enough time to prepare this podcast. But I did want to recommend some artists from Ukraine that you can check out. They have good music. And hopefully that will help you get acquainted with Ukrainian culture and have a closer understanding of what they're fighting for.
We should also shout out the game studio.
Oh, yes.
I'll pull it up.
Can you pull it up?
Yeah, I'll pull it up.
All right. So my first recommendations of an artist you guys should check out is Ruslana. And I wanted to mention that Ruslana's family is mixed. She is part Ukrainian, part Russian.
Spell that for me.
Ruslana, Ruslana.
Ruslana.
You can also use this keyboard right here, you know. Okay. Never mind. I'm not logged in, actually.
See, that's why I didn't use it.
So Ruslana is a very important performer for the Ukrainian people because she represented Ukraine in Eurovision. She also has multiple songs that have gone international. She's very successful that way, but also she has been very outspoken. She has multiple protest songs, and she has been very present during the Maidan protests back when Crimea was being taken. She was literally sleeping on the sidewalks because they were calling her every hour to sing the Ukrainian national anthem, and she was there with the people playing piano and singing the national anthem.
That was dope as hell.
She was there for weeks in the middle of winter, and she is amazing. So check her out. She has pretty cool music, and her life is super impressive. She also was briefly in Parliament.
Nice.
And in the European Parliament as well, if I'm not wrong. And now she works with the green energy industry to promote wind energy. So she is a really good person. Now, my next recommendation, I don't really like this music, but I think that this band is super cool.
Pussy Riot's fucking dope.
It's Pussy Riot.
They're like punk as fuck. I
don't know.
absolutely love it.
Have you heard of them?
That sounds pretty punk.
Have you heard of them?
I have not, no.
So Pussy Riot is a collective of performers. It's not really one band with like a stable crew. They're all wearing these colorful balaclavas on their faces and like colorful dresses.
Sometimes also literally running around topless with like "fuck Putin" written on their breast.
Yes.
I bet that's a
They
lot
go to
of
jail
stuff.
often.
I've done it.
A lot of I think 3 of them are considered prisoners of conscience by the UN because they were imprisoned for performing inside of one of the like Orthodox cathedrals. They were performing songs, and then I think they got naked, maybe in the church, and so they got like they got in prison for like defamation and for like anti-religious like hate speech basically or something. They did that because Putin has very close ties with the church.
Sure he does. Yeah.
And that is not okay. Obviously, separation of church and state is very important. Americans.
Hey, we practice. We preach it, but we don't practice it all the time.
We love to preach.
Pussy Riot is, I don't think you can find their music anywhere. You might be able to find some like YouTube videos.
I think they're
not.
YouTube.
But I don't think they like have albums and shit. They're just performers.
That's
But
kind of cool.
yeah, 3 of them were in jail for like 2 years over this performance. Yeah.
That's hardcore, man.
Speaking of prisoners of conscience, you guys probably know Mr. Navalny. Alexei Navalny. He's the leader of the opposition in Russia, the only viable opposition at this point to Putin. He's also in jail.
Oh, didn't they poison him on an airplane on the way to
They
Berlin?
also poisoned him with Novichok when he was in Britain. So, and that Putin never acknowledged that happened.
Yeah, even though Novichok is like the calling card of like the KGB.
KGB, yeah.
Yeah.
He has, I don't know if that YouTube channel still exists, but at some point he has like 1 million followers on YouTube, and he was making like, he's a comedian too. So there are videos of him just like making fun of Putin on YouTube.
That was great.
And lastly, and this band is not really like politically involved in any way, but Goa is the last Ukrainian band we all were watching in Eurovision. I think you were in that reaction video as well.
Maybe.
Their music is dope. They are kind of like an electric folk band. So they take inspiration from traditional Ukrainian music and turn it into like a popular, more digestible electric version.
It's like folk EDM. The song Shoom goes absolutely hard. I bang it at the pool.
Yeah.
I honestly thought it was a contestant for a possible winner of Eurovision. That shit went absolutely hard.
It was great, yeah.
Dang.
Yeah. So I really believe. Oh, there's a bunch of movies and series that are Ukrainian production or any other production from the Eastern Bloc. I can go on forever about our production, but I won't. Just Cozy Dance. Watch it. It's great.
Yeah. All right. So I guess here we are, 2022. The Cold War never really ended.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think so.
I mean, it got way colder. But yeah.
Here's so this should be a rule worldwide. Okay, whatever type of government you're from. After 60, you can't be a politician anymore.
Yeah,
you got to go do something else.
We're gonna say 30 to 60.
Yeah.
Those are your politics
30
years.
to 60, you can be a politician. After that, fuck off.
I definitely
go bag
agree with
groceries
that.
at Kroger.
Yeah.
Because it's
or
like
we can have a good system
all
for old
these
folks.
Old fucks need to
leave.
No.
I know what you were trying to say.
Yeah, Biden's too old to be a president. I think Trump's too old to be a president.
Absolutely.
Biden's
president's
way
old as
too old,
fuck,
man.
bro.
Biden, dude, it's no matter when I turn him on, like he's like literally slurring his speech. Like it's like he can't. He's Sleepy Joe was a great.
It was.
Diss, man.
I know that Trump has a lot of energy for an old person, but what he also has is a lot of ideas for an old person. Like he's got old people ideas. Like anybody that's an old person now has, especially in America, has participated in some old school racism, flat out. Period. That's just how it is with old people. And it's like, look, I know you guys have a lot of cool ideas that we can implement, but also like some of your ideas are fucking terrible, and it's weird that you're able to keep that shit around for this long.
We're passionate about this right now, but I wonder if like when I turn 61 and I'm gonna look at the younger generation and be like, no, I know better, like will I be comfortable enough to be like, you know what I mean?
We
like,
should
I wonder what my headspace will be, because like I do look at kids now and I'm like, man, this isn't how things used to be.
I mean that's it. But I mean that's a product of getting older. I think if in our country we had better education, better access to healthcare, killed the war on drugs, that we would be raising a generation that we would be okay taking care of us, not just in our old age, but also taking care of the country politically. But instead, after 2020, shit's just gonna radicalize people, bro.
Yeah.
Fuck Joe Manchin too. I'll fight that motherfucker.
But no, there definitely needs to be a cap on politicians, man. They're like 100%. That will be.
What do you think about the famous proposal of Battle Royale?
God.
Just drop them in a Fortnite game.
I can't believe that the most rustiest ass motherfucker
trial by combat, because he wasn't suggesting he fight.
He was melting alive while he was saying that. Like, come on, you're made out of.
And that's what's crazy. Just one
Honey.
year later, only 1 year later, everyone has just. We have HD 4K footage of everything that went down, and people are straight up like, nah, it's not quite how it happened, though.
Yeah.
Nah, I don't think he ever said that. No, I think you're misremembering.
He literally said that.
I'm not running for president. Thank you, Black Loki. But I do want to address Johnny. Johnny, I'm not saying I dislike old people or hate old people. I just don't think
shouldn't
that
be allowed to make rules.
I think that after a certain age, you're not fit to lead. Just like I think before a certain age, you're not fit to lead.
It's
same
not
with young people.
It's not your world anymore.
I don't think. Yeah, exactly.
It's not your life anymore. You're done. I'm sorry.
It's not that
you're done.
all old people are like just incapable of critical thinking. That is not what we're saying. But there's certain inflexibility when it comes to like old people trying to change their mind. You can't teach an old dog a new trick.
Nice idiom.
It's just.
It's rare.
We know this.
Yeah.
As a society, we created a phrase that
Right.
describes this phenomenon.
I mean,
and the fact that you as a person are supposed to fight for something that doesn't affect you because you're gonna die That is why, like, you're not motivated enough. Maybe you're motivated to fight for your children if you're a good person.
And if the thing is,
But-
if fighting for them literally means insulating them from the bad things by making sure they have money, Joe
Yeah.
Manchin, then why do you care about what happens to the world?
Exactly. Like, people, like, politicians right now are so beyond unmotivated on global warming. Like, the Green Deal that we got is so washed down because of asshole Manchin and the other bitch, what's her name?
Cinema.
Fucking hate her. They literally ruined the entire plan, and it was already a pretty washed down plan, and now it has absolutely no balls.
And another problem, because when the whole impeachment trials were happening for Trump, and how everybody was like, there's also a notion both on the left and the right that although I will be biased and say that I feel like the left is a little bit more capable of critical thinking, but that's just me. But anyways, what I'm saying, there's this notion of like a unified, like, I'm on the right or the left, and this is the way my team thinks, so this is how I think. You know what I mean? Like, there's a lack of individuality within the parties, because when that was happening and the people that were coming up and saying like, nah, I'm going to vote no for this impeachment, like, you could tell on their face that's not truly what they believe, but that's what they have to say or do in that moment to benefit the rest of their career. There's just this notion of like, that's why I never really found myself on either side, because there's Republican values that
As you should.
that I do resonate with, and I was so confused by that notion growing up. I was so confused by that. I was like, why do you have to be one or the other? Because there's things I disagree with on both sides, and there's things and it was just so confusing to me watching politics, watching news, and being like, it's like a template. Like, it's a template. It's a template for each side. If you're on the right, this is who you are. If you're on the left, this is who you are. And there's just a lack of like individual thinking within each party that has always bothered me, because I'm just like, everyone's different. Everyone has different beliefs. Like, there's no fucking way that everybody on the right believes exactly the same things. I don't know, man.
Yeah.
It's always confused me. It's always very, very much confused me.
Yeah. And I realized that at some point, the reason why I don't like sports and I don't like root for teams is because of this mentality. And I just like can't, like, I feel like this is such like a good comparison to make, because when you're like rooting for a sports team, that's loyalty, right? And that's passion. Why would you apply this with politics? That is not, that it just makes no rational sense, but still it happens. Like, if you're basically like, what's happening right now in the Republican Party feels to me like people fanatically, hooligans following a football team.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, it's fanatic, because you have zero critical. The one person that was critical, Liz Cheney of Trump, is no longer part of the party.
They said, get her out of here.
She's literally no longer part of, right?
Yeah.
Is she?
But no. She doesn't have her position
She is
anymore.
done. Like, her career is done, unless she joins the Republican the Democrat Party. I don't know. But that kind of
She probably wouldn't do that
mentality.
because she's not a Democrat.
And I want to say also the same applies, the same mentality. I can see that in my parents as well, because my dad, he has always been kind of more pro-Russia than he would be like pro-West. Like, if you have to pick a side, his nostalgia for as things were is always so strong that he doesn't look westward, he looks eastward. You know what I mean? And like, over time, as the world is starting more and more polarized, he also like leans more and more. And like, I talked to him yesterday, and I was like, tell me what you think right now, because there's literally no fucking way you can think that this is right. And he told me he doesn't think it's right. He doesn't agree with it happening. But at the same time, he told me that he thinks that the reason for it happening has grounds. Like, from Putin, like, wanting to not be threatened by NATO and blah, blah, blah. And it's just like that. I can't talk to you right now. I can't talk to you, because just imagine this was our country. You are there. You're literally 1,000 kilometers away from where the fighting is happening, and it can come to your door too. How are you okay with this? How are you justifying what's happening? Mm-hmm. It can literally bite you in the ass tomorrow.
It's blissful ignorance. It's not. I mean, it's the same thing when the pandemic started. It's like, but it's happening in China.
But it's just like he's unwilling. He has so much loyalty for his team that he doesn't want. He's still, despite it's blatantly betraying him and his people. He just can't bring himself to actually condemning it fully.
Yeah.
The only legs I think that argument has is if you look at it from a Russian standpoint and being like, if Ukraine, a place that in some Russians' minds used to be Russian and is also on the border, becomes a part of NATO, that their buffer in between non-NATO countries and NATO countries is now gone. They view NATO as a threat. America wouldn't let the Cuban Missile Crisis happen, for instance. So if you think about it from a superpower, like America being like, there's no way in fucking hell we're going to let a nuclear armed communist country be this close. I've been to Cuba. Cuba's nice. But you see what I mean? Like that's the kind of thing where from that one standpoint, you can see that. But for that same standpoint, because I would have thought this way when I was younger, now I kind of think that Ukraine's its own sovereignty place. Like, you got to let it happen. If America was going back to war over fucking Cuba because Cuba is arming itself with missiles and shit, I'd be like, I'm sorry. That fucking blows. But also, Cuba has the choices to make its own fucking choices. You got to let sovereign nations do what they're going to fucking do.
Yeah.
And because Ukraine gave up its nuclear weapons and now this shit's happening to them, no country on this fucking planet's ever going to do that again. If I'm Iran and we being like, we got the nuclear deal with Iran and all that shit went sideways, if I'm Iran, I'm like, we need fucking nukes, which is terrifying because they could get taken over by fucking ISIS could pull some bullshit. Yeah. Who fucking knows what could happen? But if you're a country, you know that the only way you're going to keep people out of your fucking borders and the only way you're going to be able to do what you want to do and keep your sovereign whole shit is by being a fucking nuclear power. Why would North Korea is seeing this right now and they're like,
yeah,
never.
I'm glad you're mentioning it because I forgot to mention that in my history overview, but this is true. In I think it was 94, Ukraine denuclearized itself completely in exchange for unquestionable sovereignty and independence of Russia. Why are we here right now?
And it'll never happen again.
There is literally, I think it's the Budapest Accord that that's probably wrong. I don't know. But there is an accord. It's codified. It should be a law that is to be followed. But Russia is just like, nope. This is my country now.
Yeah. And Cocoa Twix, our country has committed plenty of crimes.
Absolutely. Oh yeah, that's
we're not innocent.
Oh yeah.
I
We're the only country to have ever dropped atomic bombs. So.
Right? Twice.
Oh, yeah.
Twice. Within hours.
I've spent a lot of time on Twitter yesterday, which was not good for me, but I just kind of had to
tell you to stop.
I had to do it.
You went down the twit hole.
For myself. I think that I actually made a friend though. Because this guy, I think he was from Kazakhstan, and I tweeted something about just not being in here for this war, it needs to stop and protect the Ukrainian lives. This guy responded to me and was like, you're so entitled, white person, go away, you don't know what you're talking about. And I was just like, I'm literally from there. What do you mean? I feel like I can voice my opinion in this instance. And we started talking. He's like, he's very anti-West because of all the atrocities that the United States undeniably has done.
Just look at the Middle East in general.
And trying to export.
Abu Ghraib.
Oh, yeah. And not even acknowledging all the atrocities that they've committed. Literally, journalists have to dig bodies out of the ground to confirm that the U.S. fucked up several times. This is not okay.
Shit, internment camps.
But what I'm saying is that doesn't really mean that the Ukraine has it just can be attacked to pay for these crimes, because Ukraine has nothing to do with that. This is not the people of Ukraine. And again, I know that this sounds super privileged because I am not from the Middle East, and I have sympathized with, but I can't make any changes in what happened. I can make changes in what's happening right now in Ukraine. That's why we're talking about it today. And I have been outspoken in the past about not being on the side of West, trying to westernize the entire world. So, yeah, it's just weird. Then we became friends because he was like, okay, I see where you're coming from. So, like, we started as, like, mortal enemies on Twitter, you know, like being snarky and shit. And they're like, okay.
But that's what it is. Like, you were able to have a conversation and push past the contention. And eventually somebody saw where you were coming from. But it could have. But that's the thing. Like, I feel like a lot of people try to have these conversations and it ends at the moment where he was like, you're white, you have no idea what you're talking about, and then it just devolves into
right,
you know, it just devolves into nothing.
Yeah.
So like, I don't know, man. I don't know. It's like the people like us were innocent in all this kind of, in that like nobody wants this to happen, but we're also the ones responsible for having the conversations with each other, and having those conversations is getting more and more difficult by like the minute. You know, not even by the day, like literally by the minute.
Yeah, maybe we need to just all start going to bars that think differently and having conversations with people. I know where the Proud Boy bar is at here in town.
I'm not going.
You want to go to a Proud Boy bar?
Absolutely not.
And be like, hey fellas.
Hey, what's up? It's your boy here, Nuisance 88, here to change your mind.
All right, next podcast from the Proud Boys bar.
No.
Yep. We're going to be like Joe
I'm not
Rogan,
going.
except for we're a diverse cast, and I'm sure the Proud Boys will love and accept us. Say what you will about the Proud Boys. There's plenty of proof that they are exactly who you think they are.
You know what? I will shout out this YouTube channel called Soft White Underbelly. And
that's so funny.
I love that channel because it's this guy that, like, I think he lives in LA. And he just pays people to come and do an interview with him. Yeah. And it's people from all kinds of walks of life, just all kinds of people from everywhere. A lot of them are like homeless people from Skid Row or like drug addicts and stuff. But there was one interview where he had it with like a KKK Grand Dragon. Mm-hmm. And he was in his like garb and stuff. And it's just I really love that channel because it doesn't have any bias either way. He just pretty much, he doesn't even ask them questions. He just turns the camera on. He kind of guides them into speaking, and then he just lets them go. And then you just have this person talking for like 30 minutes, and you get to understand like. I would really super recommend that channel if you want to just see perspectives from different people from around the world, and like even drug addicts, you know, like the lepers of society that you'd be like, oh, that's a bad person, but then you hear them speak and you hear their plight and like their story and how they got to this point, and it's just I really love that channel.
Well, then I'll say a shout out to Channel 5 as well, because they do an interview with the QAnon shaman. It's a 40-minute long interview with him from prison. And it's amazing because like he doesn't goad him or ask him anything. He's just like, hey, let's he starts talking with him. And this dude who you've seen in the Capitol wilding out goes from being like, people are treating me bad here in jail, they're being racist towards me, to this and that, to fully mask off the most insane conspiracy theories you've ever heard that I've literally let my brain forget because they were that wild, to just being like, oh, like that's why you're in the fucking Capitol, is because you happen to believe some of the most fringe, craziest shit. And he didn't have to pull it out of him. Dude talked for 40 minutes and just let it loose.
That's the thing.
That's the kind of shit that just, because it's hard to be biased in, when you're just, a person's just being like, this is how I feel.
Yeah, a lot of people are saying the no bias. I'm saying no bias because if you're familiar with the channel, if you watch the videos, he doesn't guide the conversation. He just lets them go.
Lets them present themselves.
Yeah, he just lets them go. So that's why I'm saying no bias. Like he literally, like I've seen interviews where where it's like 30 minutes of like, oh, I understand this person. I see how they got here. Or there's some interviews where you're like, this is a shit person. This is a terrible person. And he, you know, it's all fair game. Yeah. It's all
like the Grand Dragon, I imagine, is going to be fucking ridiculous. But like a homeless person who's addicted to drugs want to be like,
I saw that interview, and like, if you didn't know he was part of the KKK, if you didn't know that side of him, and you just had a arbitrary conversation with him about just something normal, he would seem like a normal guy. He would just seem like a
he didn't mention anything in the interview about like the
hate in him until that part of the conversation.
The topic.
You know what I mean? Like it's interesting.
David
really,
Duke ass motherfuckers.
It's very, very interesting.
Yeah. I keep a watch out for people like that for self-preservation, and I kind of know the dog whistles they use, but I feel you.
Yeah.
Well,
Oh yeah.
anything else?
Any closing words? I have closing words.
I'll say my. Well, Mickey, you want to say yours, and I'll say mine, and Katie can say hers.
Closing words, guys. Remember, as this situation brews more and more, just keep in mind that this is governments playing their government game, and that the people here and that the people there don't want this, and just try not to let it get into your head that, like, you know, don't blame like the citizens or of just don't make it a contentious thing where it's like those people are bad. No, those people are the same as you. Nobody wants this to happen right now, so just please keep that in mind.
Okay. Since Coco Twix just asked the question, I'm doing my final words. One, Coco Twix, yes, we are still strong in hard power, but if you mean in soft power, as in how we can affect the things around the world and our diplomacy around the planet, I think we're not as strong in that. Hard power, yeah, this is the reason why none of us have free education or healthcare, is because we have the largest military by like 10 times before the next handful of countries. So in that way, we have remained very fucking strong. Also, I did see the thing about the Nintendo Switch generation. We can use drones to bomb stuff still, so we're still strong. Also, plenty of us can still go out and get it. I know what the thing was saying. I understand that. I still think that we're strong. We do have army capabilities. Yada, yada, yada. My closing words are this. Go out in the world, do good for other people, do good for yourself. Like, I know we all don't think World War III is going to happen anytime soon, but who fucking knows? We could all be dead tomorrow. We could all be wiped off the planet and nuked. If there's a person you want to kiss or tell that you love them, go fucking do that. Literally go and live your life. Don't waste the last days you have on earth doing nothing. Live to the fullest, be a good person. Also, it is everyone's job to be politically active. There is literally, we're at a point in the world where no one can sit on the sidelines. Be politically active, attempt to change your government for the better, attempt to change your federal citizens for the better. Don't jump to violence. Listen if you have to. That's all. Just, we can all do better. We can listen to the other side. I hate the other side. I do. I think that they're stupid, and I think that they don't want to come to the table anymore because I think that they've been pushed so far right that they're too fucking far right and they need to be reined the fuck in. But we're not going to do it with violence. We're going to have to do it with conversation and education. And if we can get education better all across the planet, we would all be doing better. So
believe you me,
do that.
Those conversations are frustrating but we got to have them, and we can't let it devolve into like a contentious thing. So follow Marquetta's example. Stick through it, and then you'll make a buddy.
Yep. I do want to say that I would like you guys to remember that you probably have much, much more in common with a person, an average-ass person living their average-ass life somewhere in Afghanistan or Ukraine or Russia or Czech Republic than you have with Elon Musk or
facts.
With somebody so privileged and so detached from the reality you're living that you should probably not have so much loyalty for all those entitled people making decisions for you. I think that is a good mindset to have. I would like you guys to consider having that mindset because I feel like that would unify us as people in our struggle to have a more fairer world.
Yep. We got Failwell. He came through. Shout out to Failwell. What a boy.
Shout out to Failwell.
And with that, I think we're going to close this podcast. I want to thank the
Gotta hit the
Normies
button.
for allowing me the opportunity to speak on this topic today. It's not typical that we do such political conversations, but this is too fresh and too close to my home that I really wanted this podcast to happen this way. Thank you, Mickey. And thank you, Chris.
Don't close yet. One last thing. I wanted to shout out 11-Bit Studios.
Oh, yes.
They're the creators of This War of Mine, and it's a game we will likely stream soon. Either Marquetta will play it or somebody will play it. But we're going to be doing that. They pretty much put out a statement saying, like, we're against this shit. And
We should read it.
Yeah, go ahead.
So 11-Bit Studios basically said, today Russian military forces attacked the free country of Ukraine. our neighbors. As a Polish game studio and creators of the globally recognized anti-war game, This War of Mine, one that directly speaks about the suffering and misery of civilians who are affected by war, we'd like to hereby announce our company's statement. We stand against Russian invasion of Ukraine. Just words would be empty without a meaningful act, though, and the timing is crucial, so the act is as follows. For the next 7 days, which started yesterday, all profits from This War of Mine and its DLCs on all stores and all platforms will go to a special fund. A week from now, this money will be donated to the Ukrainian Red Cross to directly support victims of war in Ukraine. So
if you need a distraction from life, even though this is a pretty heavy game, go check this out. It's for a good cause.
Yeah.
And it's actually a really good game. I've had it downloaded for months. I just haven't played it yet, but I know it's pretty
Oh, and it is currently on sale for $5.
There you go.
For this purpose as well.
$5 holla.
$5 holla.
Even if you're not gonna play it, man, just fucking it's $5. But yeah, I'm sure that we will be streaming that soon.
Yes, we'll try.
Yeah.
All right, raid.
Well, we gotta do the outro and then raid.
Outro.
Raid.
Wait, we did outro. We did the closing arguments. What do you want us to do?
Raid? What's raid?
Cause it's about time for you to speak your mind. Super secret girls club. Super secret girls club. Super secret girls club.